Hello everyone, my name is Seth, and today I'm going to give you my review of Shelby Oaks. Shelby Oaks is Chris Stuckmann's brand new film, and I have been watching Chris Stuckmann for so long. I've been watching Chris Stuckmann on YouTube for about as long as I can remember. I mean, in fact, I can't even really think of a time where I've been watching YouTube where I haven't been subscribed to him. He's honestly been such a huge inspiration for me, just kind of doing all of this, doing film reviews. Some older people might have Siskel and Ebert. I have Chris Stuckmann. So whenever he announced he was making a movie, I got excited, and then I got even more excited whenever I found out there was going to be a theatrical distribution, and whenever Mike Flanagan announced he was going to be involved in some capacity, and I finally got to see it. And for a first effort writing and directing, I think he did a great job. But before we go any farther, go ahead and like this video, hit subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a video. We are on the road to 400 subscribers, so go ahead and subscribe if you're new here. And if you're not new here, share this video around with any friends or family. It can help the channel grow, and it would absolutely make my day. And also, this video is sponsored by Dubby. Dubby is an energy drink that is loaded with vitamins, and it's pretty much for anyone who wants a boost of energy to help focus without any jitters or a crash. I'm somebody who sometimes has a lot of really early mornings or some late nights working on videos or preparing for a live broadcast. So having a little bit of extra energy, a little bit of focus really helps. But I think W works for me. I've tried it. W is sugar-free, 0 calorie, and has no artificial colors, which is great. If you've recognized from my past videos, I've actually lost quite a bit of weight over the last year or so. So having something that's 0 calories, 0 sugar is really a plus for me. I have the blue raspberry, purple grape flavor, and that tastes really good. You just add a scoop into about 8 ounces of water. Some other energy drinks can kind of taste like battery acid, but this actually has a good taste. And for me, it works. I did not get jittery like I did with some others. It was just enough to help me focus on like editing or focus on like multiple cameras on a live broadcast. They have a bunch of different flavors, so if you want to try it for yourself, I actually have a code for you. Use code CinemaSeth at checkout to get 10% off your order. Now on with the video. So first, let me go ahead and say that if by some chance Chris Stuckmann stumbles upon this review, he's looking up reviews for his film, he stumbles upon this and he watches it, Chris, keep it up, both the reviews and the filmmaking. You actually are an inspiration. And so I also have to say, whether you like this film or not, you can't deny that Chris Stuckmann has done more than 99% of film fans. He actually made a full feature film. I haven't done that, and I can just about guarantee you haven't done that either. So for this review, let's go ahead and start here with some of the good. Chris does a great job of building tension and paying it off. He doesn't rely on jump scares in this film, but he has a couple that are really effective. There were a few that I kind of saw coming, but it still got me. So that just shows how well he was still able to build up the tension. He really has some great shots in this, and he kind of lets your imagination do a lot of the work. Sometimes you're looking into the shadows and you're trying to figure out, am I actually seeing something, or is my brain tricking me into thinking I'm seeing something? And sometimes there are things in the shadows, sometimes there's not. I think the way he handles this film is a very James Wan approach to scares, and I really, really like that. Sometimes he just lets creepy imagery hang out in the background, and it's pretty effective. There's also some very creepy locations that he makes great use of as well. And if you've been on YouTube for any bit of time, I'm sure you'll probably have stumbled into some like analog horror. That's kind of been a big thing over the last few years. Well, he gets to do some analog horror here, and I think he uses it very, very well. I think to go with building tension and effectively using shadow, the overall cinematography for this film was pretty fantastic. It shows that Chris does have a great eye for film. He's not afraid to linger on a shot, and I really enjoy that. And kind of speaking of the analog horror, he does get to throw in some POV found footage style cinematography here, and it works really well. All of that stuff just looked very, very natural. And the cinematography he has here honestly just goes hand in hand with the scares and the building tension, and he just does a great job with all of that. And one thing I definitely want to give him credit for is that he 100% understands the limitations that he has, especially like even the budgetary limitations. He had to have known that the CGI budget was going to be limited, and this film does require some CGI. But going back to my comment about effectively using shadows, a lot of the CGI he has to use, he does kind of obscure some with shadows, and that is a great creative choice. One, because it just makes things a little bit more creepy. It kind of lets your mind fill in a lot of the blanks that you don't see, but also it kind of covers up any deficiencies there might be in the CGI. Chris also gets some really good performances out of pretty much the whole cast, but specifically, Camille Sullivan was very good in this. We spend a ton of time with Camille's character, Mia, and so if her performance doesn't work, the whole film really would fall flat, but her performance is very, very good. It's important that we get a strong performance from her, and we do. She honestly has a lot to work with in this film. She goes from emotions like grief and sadness to fear and panic and even some relief and happiness. She really does a great job in each circumstance she's put in this film, and that's definitely a big highlight of this film. Everyone else in the cast honestly does a good job, but Camille Sullivan was the big standout for me. I also want to give credit to the screenwriting work that Chris did put in, because I would say most of the dialogue in this film felt really natural, and sometimes that's difficult even for some experienced screenwriters. I think that maybe the only time some of the dialogue didn't really seem natural was some of the like news reporter stuff that didn't necessarily sound like something you would expect to actually hear on a real life news broadcast, but it wasn't a big enough deal that it really pulled me out of the film. It was just something that I wanted to mention. Another good thing about this script is that our main character, Mia, actually pushes the story forward. You've seen some of my other reviews. That's been a complaint from me for some other films I've reviewed, especially this year, is that our main characters are not actually forced to make decisions, and their decisions don't actually push the story forward. But that's not the case here. Mia and her decisions drive the story, and it makes the story happen. She is a very involved main character, and I will say there are times in this film where Mia makes some incredibly dumb and careless decisions. Sometimes it's just the worst decision you could ever make, and she's at times one of those characters where you're just looking at the screen saying, "You're acting like a dumb horror movie character right now. Why are you doing this?" But at least she's making decisions that is pushing the story forward. Now, I will say that I do have some issues with the script. I think there are some story elements here that when it is all said and done, doesn't really make a lot of sense. You know, like the dots don't really connect cleanly. There's just a few story elements here where I feel like maybe he could have just dropped them, replaced them with something else, or had them tie into our main story a little bit stronger. There's just some things where it's like, well, if this is happening with this person, why does this thing need to be connected at all? So no spoilers here if you want to go out and see it for yourself. And I would recommend you going out and seeing it for yourself. But in this film, there is this kind of evil force at work, and it's kind of connected to something. But as the film went on, I guess I didn't really understand why that connection even had to exist because of the way the rest of the film ended. And I also think that the third act kind of wrapped up way too quick. By the time it ended, I was thinking we were going to have another maybe 15 or 20 minutes of the third act, but it felt like it ends maybe just a little bit prematurely. And that kind of leads me to the pacing of the film as a whole. Pacing is something that a lot of even experienced filmmakers struggle with. And that's something I feel like is a struggle here. To me, I think pacing is maybe the biggest issue for this film. The opening of the film, while good, goes on entirely too long. It's a documentary style opening and it lasts like 20 minutes. And for reference, the whole film is like 91 minutes. So that's a big chunk of time dedicated to this one portion. And while I do like the opening, and while it is made well and it does accomplish its goal, the issue is the goal is just to give you a bunch of backstory for the main story we're about to see. So we have like 20 minutes setting up the other 70 minutes of the film. I just feel like there's a better and more effective way to deliver this backstory information. I think you could have still gotten all of the information across without basically just sitting us down and giving us a ton of exposition. That's really what the first 20 minutes was. It's just kind of a 20-minute exposition dump to start the film. So like I said, I think pacing is probably the biggest issue I have with this film. It honestly is a major issue in regards to the whole film. I think that brings it down a lot of points for me, but that's something that he can learn from and do better next time. So overall, I did still enjoy Shelby Oaks. It definitely has its issues, especially issues that are prominent in first-time directors and writers. But there's definitely some good here. There's some good scares, some good performances. I think the story idea is really interesting, and it does a great job of building tension. So I would say for a first effort, he did a great job. It's impressive, it's admirable, and I want Chris Stuckmann to keep it up. I will definitely be there for his next film. I'm gonna have to give Shelby Oaks a very solid 3 out of 5. It might not sound like maybe the best score. It still is a positive score. I was trying to decide whether I wanted to give it a 3 or 3.5. I decided with a 3, but it's still a very solid 3. But that's it. That's my review of Shelby Oaks. Have you seen this film? Let me know what you thought in the comments section down below. I'd love to have a conversation with you about it. Don't forget to like this video, hit subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a video. You can also get 10% off at Dubby using my code CinemaSeth. You can also follow me on social media pretty much anywhere at CinemaSeth, and I'll see you next time.